I want you to say a little about awakening. I mean, what awakening is, and what the process of getting this transcendental state of mind.
Awakening has simply been defined in multiple ways by multiple minds and in their own respective manners. And the interesting part of these definitions is that all are acceptable definitions.
Awakening is a kind of concept, is a kind of state where a person learns and discovers himself, what the reality of this life is and what the reality of the person is, right? So awakening is far different from what we already know, right? Why do you think that we are still not able to reach where we are thinking or expecting ourselves to reach? Because there is some problem which is holding us back.
Making a distinction between happening and doing can solely solve our problem. How? I mean, if you look and observe the nature, showing your keen observation, we will find every event in the nature is happening on its own. There is no efforts being made from the nature side. For example, if you observe sun has been giving us light for trillions and trillions of years, and not a single time it has missed its duty, its obligation. Secondly, we never find sun to be doing efforts to, to let it happen, right? So it is happening on its own.
Robin, good evening and welcome again. And here we are with a new discussion topic. And as we already know that nowadays people are struggling a lot and they're trapped somewhere. And sometimes they don't even give it a second thought that why they are feeling so trapped and what is holding them back, right? But what if I tell something to the audience that this is not all about being trapped. This is all about coming out of it, right? So what is the process? I mean, how can people get comfortable with this process so that they can find the way out? And this all happens because of mental condition, right? You can say
Right.
we are conditioned by people, by situations, and by all the figures of authorities. So there's somewhere condition our brain, and this brain has accepted that this is going to be quite difficult for them, and this is what it is, right?
Right.
So this is something which we have to talk about. What happens when a person gets awakening? I mean, awakening is a process where people are able to understand themselves, who they are, what they are, and what they're capable of, and how they can adjust their lives according to the way they are willing to lead this life. So everything is then going to be quite easy for you to face, right? I won't say that people are not going to suffer anymore in their
Mm.
lives.
Mm.
Suffering will be there, but they will not be facing or they will not be taking at it as a suffering. They will be enjoying while they are facing difficulties in their lives. So before we start talking about different points and discussing in detail, I want you to say a little about awakening. I mean, what awakening is, and what the process of getting this transcendental state of mind. Over to you.
Okay, good evening to you, first of all, and good evening to everyone. Uh, Awakening has simply been defined in multiple ways by multiple minds and in their own respective manners. And the interesting part of these definitions is that all are acceptable definitions because these people have experienced this awakening in their own manners and they truly experienced it. So, for example, some people claim that they have got awakening because they have overpowered fear, right? So they have no more in a fearful state of mind. Some people have overpowered their senses, lurement, so they call themselves almost awakening. Some people have almost got victory over suffering, eliminated suffering. So they say that they have tasted this very transcendental dimension of life, which is awakening. So in this way, many people through many ways have got this awakening. Now it is us whom we have to decide which particular way we want to experience this awakening. Again, I say that there is no specific one mode, and this is only the mode that leads us to this experience of awakening. There are several other ways out available right across this planet, right, from all sorts of philosophies or scriptures or other sacred texts. All are guiding factors, and all are somewhere nurturing the overall mindset of the people, so that they could try, at least make efforts, at least in the direction to reach to this higher acme of their life. Because once we reach to this point of awakening, we literally become be very blissful, and we become so much enlightened, and everything around us appears to be quite beautiful, and there is no as such you can say suffering left in any form in us, and therefore we call ourselves a relieved soul. So, I mean, these are the definitions, and I think we will try to discuss about the possible ways out, which have been discussed so far through many philosophies and through many thinkers, right? So that's what is my opinion on this. Over to you.
Okay, so now let's discuss it in some detail. I mean, when we talk about awakening, so awakening, as I just mentioned in my introductory part, that awakening is all about knowing oneself, properly. And generally, what happens, as I said in the previous videos of ours, that whatever we know is not actually right. Because somewhere
Right.
we have borrowed the information from the, you can say, figures of authorities, people who are around us, they are somewhere imparting the knowledge which they have, and this is what we have understood so far. But awakening is a kind of concept, is a kind of state where a person learns and discovers himself, what the reality of this life is and what the reality of the person is, right? So awakening is far different from what we already know, right? So now what happens, nowadays, what people are facing, what kind of problems people are facing, that they are suffering, as we already know. They are feeling anxious, they are feeling jealous as well, and they are somewhere struggling with these negative emotions. But when a person reaches that awakening state of mind or awakening state of this existence, I think people are going to be relieved, and they are going to feel quite relaxed and comfortable. Although problems will be there in life, there is no panacea to remove all the problems and sufferings from life. But you will be enjoying all the states of life, no matter what it is, right? So I want you to say a little more about awakening, what it truly means. As you said in your part, that it has got many different definitions, depends on the kind of person who is letting you know what awakening is, and they are telling this all from their own perspectives, from those, their own experiences, right? For
Right.
example, if you feel you reach this particular state, so you will be sharing your experience, what you feel and how you feel there.
Right.
And I think your experience may differ from mine,
Right.
because as we already know that it depends on the kind of mindset a person has got, and they will be feeling everything depending on the kind of mindset they have, right?
Right.
So that's why the experience may be different. But what do you think awakening truly means?
Okay, let us be clear on one point. And the point is that we have several such events, phenomenons, which we came across through the books, through the ideas of people. And all of them, interestingly, have defined, awakening in their own way. Now it becomes a little bit confusing, little bit intricated as to how we could even make a distinction among all, because at least at the end of the day, we have to at least choose one among all, so
Yeah.
that we could ensure our path to be almost leading to the very highest acme of life, and which is this to experience this transcendental phase of life, which is awakening, right? Now, we can certainly do this, and there is a procedure. So, first of all, we know this basic fundamental principle of life is that every rule that we form is always based on majority's vote.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's talk about language. So language and its grammar works on the majority of the world. So for example, we are speaking in English language. So if someone discusses about prepositions and articles and how they basically function, how they basically work, especially in the grammar, then we learn that all these prepositions and the articles are basically a result of the majorities of and the people's using it thoroughly, right? So if 70 out of 100 people using one particular preposition in a particular context, then this will be considered as a rule
Yeah.
according to the British understanding and British grammar sections. Similarly, whenever we want to understand about awakening, we need to find out that one particular case which is common among all, and that is followed by the majority. So how we can understand it? Let me make it very simple to you. See, we need to generalize it. How? That first of all, we need to find out what is common among 99.9% of the people. Then we will reach to this conclusion here is that this is only suffering, which is somewhere common among all.
Yeah.
Suffering can be of different types and different nature, right? Some
Yeah.
people are suffering from anxiety, some people suffering from poverty, or for losing their some own kith and kin. So these are number of sufferings and different kind of distress. Now, since it is the common situation among 99.9% of the people, so therefore the purpose of the life of those 99.9% of the people would be somewhere the same. And what is here to eliminate the suffering,
Yeah.
right? That's what the Buddhist philosophy dictates and teaches us that we need to eliminate suffering. In fact, those four great nobles, truth. What are these four great noble truth? Is that there is suffering first. Second, there is a reason for suffering, means there is a cause for suffering because suffering
Yeah.
cannot be without any reason. Third, there is a possible way how to eliminate the suffering. And the fourth, the path upon which or following which we can lead to this elimination of suffering. So we have this four noble paths, right? So what it means a lot. It means that first we all have suffering and therefore we are working to eliminate this suffering because living with suffering and enjoying the life simultaneously is not a possible event. It is not possible, right? So we have to first eliminate the suffering, we have to overpower this pain, and thereafter we can live the life to the fullest. I mean, in such an amazement that we want, right? Otherwise, we will be doing a little bit compromises. And living life with compromises is just almost living a life to the insignificant level. And I think this is not at all the expectations or the demand of the humans, right? For I mean, like us, we will never want to live certain life, right? So since we understand this entire concept, now our way forward is that we are doing certain things how we can eliminate this suffering. So one who eliminates this suffering, completely overpower it, is basically known as enlightened personality. Now the next question comes out in this as a follow-up question. Once this suffering is eliminated, means eliminated forever? No, because no particular suffering can be eliminated forever. However, we as enlightened personality or soul become so aware about the suffering as our intrinsic part of human's life, permanent part of human life, and therefore we become so aware of its existence. So we become completely neutral to the suffering, which means that we let it happen on us without causing any sort of distress, without making any efforts, or without doing any grappling. And this ways we certainly ensure that yes, we are completely unaffected, unflapped by this lashes of suffering. So if we can do this, we can certainly experience this. We can certainly experience this awakening state. This is basically the idea which I'm sharing with you. Is what is mostly popularized by most of the philosophers, and many people, even accept it as a legal way to reach to this highest level of highest dimension of life.
So now the question arises, now you know what awakening is, but and people also know that there are so many other people who have reached this transcendental state of mind. But still, in spite of having such people and in spite of knowing the definition of awakening, we have read about it, we have heard about it, we have also tried, to practice it in our day-to-day life so that we can also feel that blissful state of mind. But why do you think that we are still not able to reach where we are thinking or expecting ourselves to reach, because there is some problem which is holding us back. For example, what I believe is that a lot depends on the mental barriers of people, and mental barriers are always going to be a kind of hurdle, because barrier itself is a hurdle. So
Yes.
these hurdles are going to act as the roadblock, and they'll always stop you from reaching that particular state. And these roadblocks can be in the form of society, in the form of your own thinking, your mindset, and your past experiences as well. One day while I was reading a book, I got to know about a very short story, and it is very relevant. And I think this can give people some kind of idea that why should they not be focusing that much on the past experience. We must learn something from the past experience, but we should not always think that this is going to happen forever.
Right.
Right. So you must, as we all have seen the elephants in the circus, right? The elephant can be seen tied to a post when it is actually it comes to perform the different kind of you can say items. So before he comes, he is already almost he is always tied to that post. And now see, the elephant is the most powerful animal on the planet, right? Still, it is tied to that post, and it is not even trying to break free. What happened, when he was just a baby, and it was then tied to the post with a chain, right? And at that point of time, it was too difficult for him to get free because he was too young. But as he grew up, so this has now become more and more ingrained in his mind that this is not going to be possible for him to get free, especially from this chain, because the past experience keeps reminding him that it is impossible for him to to break free, especially from that chain. And even today, when he has grown into a full full you can say now he has completely grown up, and he is not even trying to break free from that. What is it? This is all about mental barrier. It has now become a mental barrier. The past experience is always telling him that this is not possible for you. And the same thing is happening to people as well. They always think that what they could not do in the past, that is also not going to be possible for them to
Right.
do in present and in future as well. And this has now become more and more ingrained. So now tell me, what is holding us back? This is what I have felt. And what do you think is holding us back from reaching this state where we can feel that bliss, and we can always be finding ourselves to be comfortable without getting disturbed from anything that happens to us?
Okay. Uh, I will love to extend your part by adding my version to it to make it even more impactful. See, how many people can really make a distinction between the word happening and doing?
Hmm.
Maybe there are few people who can certainly do this, and trust me, who can do that have the power to reach to the higher dimension of life, more tantamount to this experience of awakening. And this is what I want my audience to know. So, what we are talking about is how we can reach to this awakening, as well as we want to know the very path. And we also need to know the obstacles, which is somewhere leading us back and somewhere precluding us to meet up those final point or destination. So, making a distinction between happening and doing can solely solve our problem. How? I mean, if you look and observe the nature, throwing your keen observation, we will find every event in the nature is happening on its own. There is no efforts being made from the nature side. For example, if you observe sun has been giving us light for trillions and trillions of years, and not a single time it has missed its duty, its obligation.
Hmm.
Secondly, we never find sun to be doing efforts to let it happen, right? So it is happening on its own. There is no extra thing can be seen from the sun side. The sun is really struggling to do that, right? Unlike our cases where we really make a lot of efforts and then still we taste the dust. Why? Because we keep making a lot of efforts. Now compare this particular event with the word doing. Now what happens in this doing is that we are doing means we are letting something happen, which means by putting our efforts consistently, we are ensuring that something which we want must happen. And if it doesn't, that somewhere it doesn't meet up our expectations. And this perhaps, according to you or according to many, I mean, leads us to face this kind of feeling of dejection, disappointments, right? So we need to first understand that we really want something in our life. We need to understand how the nature acts. Have we ever observed how our eyes are blinking? Are we making efforts to
This is
to
very
make these
natural.
eyes
This is very
blinking?
natural. We don't even realize.
Obviously, this is obviously inevitable parts or activities of our body. I mean, right now I'm talking to you, but simultaneously I'm also inhaling and exhaling. So
Yeah.
am I making efforts for this while I'm speaking to you, or is there any way where I'm skipping this inhaling or exhaling, or I'm doing a purifications of this oxygen? Not at all. So one thing which we need to understand is that when we put a lot of efforts into something, most of the time it is seen that it leads us to face I mean distress, next level distress, because we put a lot of expectations into those efforts. Secondly, our efforts are more driven and dictated by the desperation, which is really important part of the discussion. Why don't we understand one thing that David Gawkins, whom we talk a lot about, that how this one man almost proved the entire scientific community by doing that level of hard work to which he was incapable of doing, because the way he presented and projected himself, especially in the field of sport, I think it is completely immaculate and unprecedented, because he has broken number of records. He has, I don't know, I mean, done all possible things and athleticism which I think we can't expect from a normal or a common human, right? How he was able to do that? Just because of he had that inspiration, he had that spark. He was not being influenced, he was not being dictated by any outside authority. The problem with this is that we are consistently being influenced by the third authority, just because of it has been established as a social system or a socially defined values, and therefore we have to abide by it willingly or unwillingly. So for example, number of peoples are working blindly for what? Uh, to be an IAS officer, just because of we have seen this society gives much importance to an IAS officer, regardless and irrespective of the fact whether they are internally, I mean, having proclivity towards being IAS officer. So these are the subtle, parts and the subtle aspects of life. And one who has that awareness of noticing all these things happening inside us, I think can really overpower that and can somewhere let himself, present to this vast possibilities happening in this universe. So, I mean, this is really important. So, we need to see this entire social system right from our own personal standpoint. And this universe, the vast universe, possibilities are there. I mean, numerous possibilities are undoubtedly.
So it means if we are not focusing on those past experiences, we are, we are learning something from them, and we are not actually, worried about anything. We are simply doing whatever we can. Then I think we can get ourselves out from the kind of situation we are in.
Right.
The next thing we are going to talk about is the question which arises then is that if we know what holds us back. First question was we need to understand what awakening is all about. Then the question was that what holds us back from reaching there. And the third question, which is really important to know, is that what's there, and that holds us back. then then how we can break free from all these barriers, because knowing the barriers is one thing, but getting rid of them is another matter, right? So we must know how to get rid of all those barriers. So how can a person free himself or herself from these barriers from these mental chains, from the past experiences, or the conditioning, or you name it. So tell me, how can a person break free from these barriers?
I have experienced one thing, I mean, throughout my personal life as well as through the writings of great thinkers. And if I am able to conclude all these things in few lines, then it would possibly be like this: that people who have recorded themselves as successful people in this world, when I say being successful, it doesn't include only the power of accumulating and amassing wealth. It goes beyond it, right? So we have number of people who have really registered themselves truly successful people. And why do we call them successful people? Not just because of they have earned a lot of wealth. This is just an insignificant part of their overall, successful journey of the life. But there is something else which needs to be noticed, is that their creative aspect of being. I think even today we can see this vast possibilities are generating where, especially in the YouTube field, right? People are earning a lot of money. People are getting fame, right, through this YouTube. People who are becoming famous are only those who have seen the world with their different eyes.
Hmm.
How you can see your world around you from a different perspective is what that will define your overall journey as it how it's going to be, right? Otherwise, if we keep following those footprints of the people, even when they are awakened, even when they are truly successful people, we are just be ending we are just get we are possibly ending up being a copycat or the prototype of one particular successful person, and therefore we will not get that success. So the first, which is very highlighting, barrier according to me, which needs to be worked upon, is that we stop copying other. No matter what, how successful people are, we need to stop that, because every person on this planet has their specific values, has their specific potential that they hold, and their overall, I mean, immense possibilities and the energy, right? But it is utilized only for one reason, when they utilize it in the right direction. And what is that right directions? As I've rightly told in the previous part of my statements, that work on those things for which you feel you are inspired about, not
Hmm.
desperated about. So this is a very thin line difference between the desperation and inspiration. So if you really want to do something and want to be something, and that is your personal inkling, that is almost emanating from the primordial forces. What is that primordial forces? That from within you. And if you grasp that and you start working on it, trust me, even if you work hard a lot, you won't even time the day passing and the night passing. You won't even feel hungry. Even you can continuously and tenaciously working hard. This has happened with many scientists too, because these scientists are scientists not just because they want to prove their worth in this, I mean, among the society, because they love their job too much, because they are so inspired by the job that they somewhere feel always delightful all the time as long as they are engaged in the job. So the second barrier in this, which should be like this, that we need to find out our inspiration. So whosoever people outside of us is trying to influence us through the different versions of successful stories, we are not going to be entrapped in that, because these days motivational speakers are almost doing this commercial job to make people influenced in different ways. And these people who are somewhere blindly following them, I mean, somewhere disregarding their own potential, which could be utilized in some other field, right? So not everyone could be IS officer, not every person could be a player like a Virat Kohli. These are the common things which we must find your own inspiration. And if you could find your own inspiration, trust me, you would pass the second barrier. And thereafter, you will have no other barrier in your life which could hold you back from reaching this highest dimension of life.
We do the honest analysis of our own, and we become honest with ourselves for some moments. I think we can easily conclude, and we can easily figure out what is holding us back, and what are the problems, and how we can get rid of them, right? Because we nobody knows actually. No matter who, if you go to psychiatrist, the psychiatrist cannot know you fully. It is
Right.
that's why it is said that psychology is not 100% science, because somewhere
Right.
human behavior cannot be predicted. Completely, right? So, but you know yourself. I think nobody knows but you better than you yourself, right?
Right.
So you know what your interests are, what inspires you, what motivates you, and what kind of challenges you are likely to face while you are pursuing your goals, or you are following your heart, and you are somewhere going to achieve those milestones which you have decided for yourself. I think if you be clear for a while and for some moments, you can easily figure out, right? But in this process, you don't have to be overwhelmed, and you don't have to be influenced by anybody else, because what other people have done, this was under, this was, you can say, within their reach, or this is what their potential was, and this is what their strength was, and somewhere they put in efforts and they succeeded. But I think you are completely different from them, and you have to start charting out your own own, you can say, own path. And until or unless you chart out your path, you can never know what kind of problems you are gonna face and how you can get out of them, right? The next thing comes that whilst a person embarks on the journey of this self awakening or awakening, then there are no so many difficulties, there are so many hindrances, right? For example, we sometimes have fear, we sometimes have doubt, we start doubting ourselves as well at times, right? Because we always are most of the people, and we are looking for those quick fixes, and we're looking for some early successes. I think that will be a kind of flash in the pan that is not going to be there forever. So quick success, I don't really believe that. But while we are working hard and we are not getting those quick results, somewhere we are open to open to doubts and fears. So how can people deal with those doubts and fears while they are moving towards the journey to awakening, or getting this kind of awakening experience?
If we observe these successful people whom we know and try to throw our glance and cast our glance at their lifestyle overall, how it had been, many things we can learn. Their lifestyle itself a great teaching for many of the people, right? One interesting habit that most of the success people have is that they learn, I mean, things from their own mistakes.
Hmm.
Secondly, they always consider themselves to be responsible for anything that goes wrong. This
Yeah,
is really
they never hold anybody responsible for the mistakes they
these,
make.
these are the subtle things. People really don't understand the significance of these small habits and in what manner it can translate you to numerous level of success or high degree of success. We can't even figure it out. So these are the two things, first of all, we need to look at. Other possible things which we are talking about, the hindrances. I mean, first of all, as I told you, when we really looking for something, we need to be very optimistic about it because this is the natural calling for everyone. For example, we want to be successful in a certain particular activity, then we have to be optimistic about it, right? Now, how you could sustain your optimism all around throughout your journey from initiation to the last point is that what matters a lot. I still believe if your objective is something out of your inspiration, then you cannot even willingly detach yourself from that objective irrespective of the results you get it. I give you one classic example of one this dialogue which I am just reminded of from the movie Dhoni. And when Dhoni, especially this movie, in this one particular case where he was told what to get out, otherwise this man who is bowling, the person who was bowling to Dhoni, would fire you from the job because Dhoni in that movie was about to get a particular employment, government employment, and this employment was entirely relied this particular possibility was entirely relied on that one event is that who was a bowler there was somewhere the higher especially there, and if he get somewhere disappointed by any manner especially of the Dhoni's batting, then possibly he will fire him or he will snatch this possibility from the Dhoni's hand. So one of the friend of the Dhoni came near to Dhoni and asked him to get bold as soon as possible so that you could ensure your job. Otherwise, this fool man, who is actually the authority here, would definitely deny and refuse for the job, and that will be your destination thereafter. But the reply, I mean, which is interesting in this, is the reply of the Dhoni. What Dhoni said in this is that I cannot get out just because of the job, because something which I like, which I'm passionate about, is my personal willing, which is my personal predilection, and which is not a subject to compromise. So even when I'm not going to get this job, even I'm putting at stake, I'm not going to defy this my passion. I'm not going to, because I cannot do this simply. So look at this subtle, scene, which really teaches us a lot of things. So even when you are not getting success or quick success, whatsoever uh, picture you have created or imagined it in your mind as to how a successful person could be, if you don't get that right, even you have made a lot of efforts, then you need to be sustained on your path, on your hard work, on your journey towards your destination, even when you face number of setbacks or disappointments in the form of failures. If you be consistent on it, being consistent at the same time maintaining internal equipoise, this is really important thing.
Yeah.
If you lose your internal equipoise and just showing up that you are all comfortable with all these kinds of threats and the upheavals of life and perplexities of life, then maybe for the people around, I think you would be some sort of Mahatma or saint, but internally you are just a common person. So every action must be synchronized with your words. And if you can do this, can sustain it throughout your journey, even when you don't get a big success, I truly believe that there'll be a time when you will be reaching to that highest point. And even after you reach that highest point, you will not be feeling or taking any pride of it, because by the time you will have become neutral, completely neutral, means indifferent to both success and failure. And I think that was the point where you would be calling proudly that I have gained this awakening state.
And one more thing is that there is no substitute for hard work.
Right,
And for example, when we do something, fear is going to be there actually because we have never done that before. So we are likely to feel fear. So that is the part, that is inseparable part. But what I think is when you stay the course, right? Because everything has its own timetable, right? And everything needs certain investment to be made, and if you don't make that investment, you cannot actually get that thing. You cannot full If you cannot pay the price, you cannot get that thing.
right,
So even though you say that you are having fear, you are having doubts, so let them be. You have to stay the course and you have to learn to believe yourself, because ultimately you just want to achieve that particular
right,
state. And if that is your goal, then it is expected of you that you have
right,
to you have to learn to accept those doubts, and you have to then overcome them. You have
right,
to believe yourself, and you have to face. Actually, I read somewhere that a courageous person is not the one who doesn't fear. Courageous is the person is the one who is actually able to overcome the fear. They feel
right.
fear,
Obviously,
but they have the ability to overcome that fear. So this is what we are supposed to have. These are the qualities which we are supposed to have if our aim is to reach that awakening state, right? And the last but not the least is that once we are done with this, and once we are able to learn to feel fear, to face fear and deal with doubts, then the question arises that how we can stay awake and aware, because that is
correct.
also a big question. Once you have reached somewhere, then it is going to be more difficult to stay there, because if you lose your focus even for a second, you are going to be far, far, far behind, and it will take you a lot of time to get where you are already. So tell.
By the way, the state of awakening is itself a stage where you have perfected your life on this planet.
Hmm.
Perfected in a sense where you have been fully committed to the principle of awakening, forever your life, and therefore you are calling yourself awakening. So, for example, it is, according to me, not one thing which has to be sustained, which has to be sustained by putting deliberate efforts. But once you reach to this awakening, it means you have ensured that throughout your life you are going to be awakened because you have known the truth. You have realized and imbibed the truth of life. It is just an elixir. One who drinks it will be always an awakened soul. And one who hasn't tasted it, they may call themselves awakening, but their awakening would be just a transient experience.
Yeah, yes,
Yes.
correct. And with this, I want I want to give the final piece of whatever we have discussed. Uh, as we have discussed so many things to reach this state, one
Mm,
more thing I would like to say is that we are the student of philosophy, we are the student of spirituality. We don't say that whatever we are saying is perfect, right? Because this is a personal experience and it has no objective reality. So this is something which we had to share, that if a person follows, then
mm,
chances are that they can reach a state where they will not be getting too much affected by the things happening around them, and somewhere they'll be feeling, quite blissed out, and they will be able to focus on the things they're doing very easily. Because ultimately, when your mind is quite at means your mind is at peace, when your mind is feeling, feeling quite relaxed, then you can do the things with ease. So they are not going to be very difficult for you, and you will not be getting irritated, and you will not be getting desperate easily, right? So with this, I'm gonna wrap it up, and we will be coming with some interesting topics, and then you will also be getting many things to know. With this, I'm wrapping it up. Take care.